comment tonight, please fill out a comment card outside of the table out there and fill it out and return it to me over at this little tray here by my very sticker laptop. And I'll have you in the board ready to see you. And as soon as our live stream is live, which we're live, all right, great. Chair Tom, whenever you're ready, you can call the meeting to order. Nice Chair McCart, good to see you.
Okay, good evening. Good evening, members of the public. Good evening, Democrats. My name is Nancy Tom. I'm the chair of the San Francisco Democratic Party. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the San Francisco Democratic County Central Committee for Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. We are at the San Francisco LGBT Center in June, which is the month of Pride. Although in San Francisco, we always wear Pride proudly, year-round. So let's begin with item number 1 on our agenda, which is the call to order and roll call. Director Chin.
Call to order at 6:35 p.m. Akbar.
Present.
Akbar present. Aliago here. Is not here, but is anticipated. Arsic.
Present.
Present. Foxy Bruce Elliott. Avalos.
Present.
Present. Kawaguchi.
Here.
Present. Chan is absent. Chandler.
Here.
Chandler present. Chan myself is present. Holes. Holes, I believe, is proxy by Member Kingsbury. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Member Dorsey, I believe, is absent. Is excused absent. Galata.
Present by proxy.
Present by proxy. Robin Stone. For the record. And then Gupta is not here, but I believe anticipated. Hare.
Present.
Hare present. Let's see. Exit. Wait. Sorry. Going back. Ho.
Here.
Ho is present. Kim.
Here.
Kim is present. Lai. Present. Lai present. Mahmood. I believe is
Present by proxy.
proxy under Hare. Kingsbury.
Present.
Present. Mar.
Present.
Is present. Wynn.
Present.
Is present. Philhar. Is anticipated. I believe. Sanchari.
Present.
Present. 2. Present by proxy. Patrick Wolf. Let's see. Ex officios. Pelosi. Proxy here. Coy. Mullen. Mullen, I believe, is absent. Kounalakis.
Present.
Proxy. Ken Searing. Mom. Proxy. Patrick Wallow. Cohen.
Present by proxy.
Proxy. Hasib Emron. Wiener.
Present by proxy.
Proxy. Jordi Barrientos.
Yeah.
Amy.
Present by proxy.
Proxy. Andrea Gallardo. Stephanie. Proxy. Frankie Falzone. Lastly, Chair Tom
Present.
is present. Chair Tom, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Director Chen. Let's see. Item number 2 on our agenda is approval of our meeting agenda. Are there any additional amendments to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by the agenda. Motion by Director Lai. Second? Anyone? Second by Vice Chair Harris. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we have our agenda. Item number 3 is an approval of the meeting minutes from the May meeting. Are there any additions or edits to the meeting minutes? Okay. Okay, is seeing nothing, the members, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 28th?
So moved.
Moved by our parliamentarian, Chairman Chandler. Is there a second? Second by Member Nguyen. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Item number 4 is a presentation from the San Francisco LGBT Center from our hosts. And coming forward right now. Thank you for having us today.
I don't think that. Thank you so much for.
We can do a live stream.
I don't think it's on.
There's a switch on.
Never mind. Thank you everyone so much for holding your event here. My name is Jennifer Baez. I am Deputy Director of the San Francisco LGBT Community Center. Just briefly, so you know who we are, we serve the broad spectrum of the LGBTQIA community here in San Francisco. We're the only agency that serves the entire community. And what we do is really center and uplift the most marginalized in our community. So a lot of our programming is around basic needs and really get into a place of self-sufficiency and autonomy and equality in the world. And so you can look for programming on things like financial capability, buying your first home, getting a job, getting shelter, getting food, getting access to basic needs. And then beyond that, just joy and community through arts and culture. We have a number of events, and while we are focused on serving the LGBTQ community, all of these things are available to our allies as well. This is a hard moment for all of us. Our communities are under attack. The party is under attack. The work that we're doing should not be one that comes with threats of physical violence. One where we have to consider the safety of ourselves and our loved ones, but here we are and sharing that intersection. I want to just thank you for the work that you do for keeping our community in mind and supporting and uplifting us, and especially the trans community in this moment. It's a hard time, and we are in a place where I don't think there is any one leader that we can look to. We all need to be stepping up, taking leadership roles, participating, doing what we can, and that is what we do here, and that is what you are doing. So we just want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your work. And on your way out, please take a look at our offerings. I bet we might have some things you're interested in, or people in your community might be interested in. And let's continue to just support and uplift and hold one another through these times.
Thank you, Deputy Director Jennifer Baez, from the SF LGBT Community Center. It is really a great honor to be here in the Castro in this very special place during Pride. As part of our Gems on the Move campaign, we are moving our monthly meeting from neighborhood to neighborhood. This is the third in our series, and it has been really delightful for me as the chair to just be in different neighborhoods and different people and hear from a variety of our fellow Democrats in the community. With that, we are moving on to item number 5, which is general public comment. I think we will have enough time to allow 2 minutes per speaker for public comment. I do want to remind everyone of our code of conduct. The Democratic Party not only has adopted the California Democratic Party's code of conduct, we have our own special code of conduct related to sexual assault and sexual harassment. We expect the behavior here to be welcoming, respectful, and friendly, safe, supportive, and harassment-free for all of our members, our employees, and others associated with the party, including members of the public that attend our meeting. We have expectations about behavior that people will abide by if they come to the meetings. All individuals should feel welcome and safe within any event or meeting that our party has, regardless of their sex, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, pregnancy, or reproductive status, race, color, ethnicity, national origin, ancestry, religion, caste, creed, age, disability, health status, marital status, military or veteran status, body size, physical appearance, domestic violence victim status, social or economic status, or any legally protected classification of charges. The party will not tolerate harassment and prohibits the creation of hostile conditions that's disrespectful or unprofessional conduct based on any of the aforementioned categories. We will ask you to leave if you are not able to abide by our code of conduct. And we keep these expectations with us at this meeting and every meeting of the Democratic Party and all of the events that we host. And all of our chartered clubs have also adopted similar code of conduct guidelines. So with that advisement, Executive Director, would you please proceed with public comment?
All right. Hi, everyone. Happy June, happy Pride. If you would like to make a public comment, please fill out a comment card slip this that is on the outside table with the banner out there, and then bring it over to me here if you haven't already done so. Many of you have. I will call speakers in the order that I received the comment cards. Please note that this body takes all public comment during this item. Each member of the public will have, as Chair Clement said, 2 minutes to address this committee. Associate members, including club presidents or chairs, members of the Democratic State Central Committee, Assembly District chairs, and regional directors will have double or 4 minutes to address this committee. I will keep the time with my phone, although I really would need to invest in a timer of sorts, and hold up a page that says 30 seconds when you have 30 seconds, and time when you have run out of time. So keep an eye on me over here in this corner. With that, I thank you in advance for your patience, and let's get going. The first couple of slips that I recorded, let me move over to where I wrote this down, are Ann West, Griffin Lee, Susan Pfeiffer, and Josh Simmons. And by the way, the comment mic is this one station here in the middle. You are welcome to either just come up and stand at it, or if you would like, you can take it out of its stand and sit at this table if you would rather sit. So Ann West.
I wasn't going to speak, so hopefully I'll be articulate enough. Talking to the mic.
Into the mic, thank you.
Okay, so I am speaking on behalf of the California Clean Money Bill, SB 42, to remove the ban on cities being able to fund candidates who are able to receive small donations of approximately $10. I'm here seeking signatures on this petition to place this bill on the ballot next November so that California citizens can vote on it. There's currently a ban on this, as you may know, from 1974, that prevents cities from providing funds to candidates, which Bernie has called for. Bernie has called for cities public funding to eliminate reliance on the big PACs like Musk, not Mr. Musk. The League of Women Voters, Common Cause, are sponsoring the bill, which the Senate has already passed. Authors of the bill include Senators Becker, Allen, Cervantes, Wiener, and Assemblyman Alex Lee. And let me give you an example. For instance, if Mr. Obama were starting out, people in his community would know him, they would be able to contribute like $10, a bunch of $10 donations. If he were to reach a certain threshold, like 1,000, then the city of San Francisco would be able to give him 5,000. It's 5 to 1. New York City is 8 to 1. This change started this way. and she's a very successful person in New York State, as you know. So, so this is what Bernie's been calling for, and I just collected signatures for it. And I think you might have something on your desk for it, so if you want to sign up, please see me afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Up next, Griffin Lee.
Susan.
Susan.
You're not. You can go first if you want.
Griffin's.
Oh, it's, I thought you were saying.
Sorry.
It's okay. That's okay. Go on. That's no problem. Sorry.
Go for it, Griffin.
Good evening, DCCC, Griffin Lee here on behalf of Connected SF. I'm here to oppose the right to, or to oppose the city to require a district, or to require a shelter in each district in the next 18 months. The head of this legislation, Mr. Bilal Mahmoud, he comes from the private sector and he was once the head of product amplitude. In the private sector, I highly doubt he put the root of the problem on his team members. Similarly, why would he do so in the city? He was running on one of his campaign notes was that he knew what he was getting into, running for District 5, where the root of the problem is. I think to tackle the drug crisis, to tackle the homelessness problem, this is not a good example of it. This is just putting the burden on the backs of everyday San Franciscans who are just trying to live their lives. If we really want to get to the root problem of the drug crisis, let's maybe reintroduce Supervisor Matt Dorsey's proposed legislation from last spring and bring in the federal agents to get all of the dealers out of here. We need to get tougher. I'm at City Hall once or twice a week and I walk down Van Ness and I still see the problems. Lastly, if we want to continue providing shelter, I think we need to consider who we contract out to. I've seen hundreds of $millions in the last 2 months go to contract providers that have had deaths month over month in our city, in their facilities. We need to do better, and this is not addressing the root problem. We oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your comment, sorry. Up next, I have Susan Pfeiffer, followed by Josh Simmons. Now you're up, Susan.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Couple of things. First thing I'm an ex officio member of Susan Pfeiffer, so I'm gonna take advantage a little bit tonight on several things. First one is the resolution on that is about the break-in at Manny's, because this hit home for me. My father left Munich, Germany in 1927 at the age of 19, not speaking a word of English. He saw what was going on around him and he got out, made a life in America and was able to get his parents out on the very last ship that got out of Germany, the St. Louis. So I grew up with that story. And when I saw what happened at Manny's and what's going on in the world today, it is giving me chills I never thought I would have. I never thought this would happen in this country. I've been signing emails with Never Again is now. I reached out to Manny's this week with an idea, and they're gonna look into it. A few months ago, late night, I happened to catch the movie Cabaret on TV. There was nothing else on, so I watched it. I had forgotten how impactful that movie was. Before my father passed away, he had had surgery, he was home recuperating, and we had gone to see the movie. And he said that was the best depiction, the most realistic depiction of what was happening in Germany at that time. It wasn't fiction in his mind. while we think of it as a Broadway musical, when I watched it again, it gave me a different perspective. So I've suggested to Manny's that they rent the film, they're looking into the cost, and have a night where we can all watch it together and then have a conversation afterwards. So, and that may be something the DCCC could even co-sponsor with them. So we need to be much more aware. I'm getting really concerned with what's happening in this country. So that's the first thing. The other thing I wanted to talk about is voter registration. I saw Member Akbar at an event recently and gave him a copy of some postcards that we had made in the previous administration of the DCCC for voter registration that I loved. I still have some. And I made, of course, I always make posters of it. It's really well done, and it could be redone with new artwork or something. It's really easy if you're out doing voter registration. What I like is a QR code, because everyone's doing it on their phone now. So you don't have to get if they have their signature on file with the DMV, you don't have to fill out the form, and you can get that done. There are various groups. There are also the Bay Area Coalition, which is Swing Left San Francisco, and a lot of other groups are going to the Central Valley and working at farmers markets this summer to do voter registration. We need it there more than any place else so that we can get rid of David Valadeo next year. So we definitely have to make sure people are registered, and whatever we can do in San Francisco to increase it, that's kind of our mandate, so we should be doing that. And I think the last thing is, there are various groups that are phone banking right now. And why are we phone banking? There's no election. We are calling voters in other states that have Republican senators, patching them directly through to their senator's office to leave voicemail to say, I'm one of your supporters, my name and address, and I want you to vote no on the budget. Just having us call doesn't do it, but having constituents call, it's very effective. So if anyone wants to help on that, come see me.
Thank you for your comment. Dr. Simmons.
Good evening to all of you. I want to thank the sponsors of the resolution on bans and anti-Semitism.
Into the mic.
I'm here today as a concerned Jewish citizen. I'm also a licensed clinical psychologist and a leader of a Jewish mental health organization that researches anti-Semitism and provides free virtual support to Jews who are struggling to survive in an increasingly hostile climate. For nearly 2 years, I've spoken with hundreds of Jews who have shared the devastating toll that anti-Semitism has taken on their lives and well-being. Students harassed and driven to take leaves of absence from college, professionals bullied and intimidated at work, parents pulling their children out of school, families fleeing their communities in fear. The list goes on and on. I have witnessed firsthand the widespread trauma and grief rippling through the Jewish community. And what I hear again and again is a profound sense of isolation, abandonment, and vilification. I urge you all to vote yes on this resolution. Show the Jewish community that you see them, that you hear them, that their pain is not invisible. Stand with them and support them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. The next handful of people I have are in this order: David Grosso, Ditka Ryan, Susan George, and Matthew Finkelstein. David Grosso.
Hi, thank you, DCCC. People I voted for, people I didn't vote for, and to the live stream folks, I'm actually using a microphone. So I'm here in support of the resolution number 9, that does stand up for another persecuted minority. It's a tradition in San Francisco for coalition building of the Democratic Party in support of basic liberal and pluralist values in the society. And I want you to Like, if you're sort of skeptical about the dramatic comments you just heard, all you have to do is like visit the Jewish Community Center and drive in with a car if you actually use an automobile, and your trunk has to be searched. These costs are born, the costs of fear, the costs of caution. And there is this increasing sense of isolation. There's a sense of waiting for the next shoe to drop, of violence and hatred. And it's quite painful for this small minority, of which I am a part, to participate in. And just as I need to stand up for trans people, please stand up for Jewish citizens of San Francisco, and stand up for San Francisco as a light of liberal values and support of some basic decency. So the recent incidents in the marina and the attack on Manny's, sort of not surprising, but they're still very upsetting and we need to stand up. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next I have Dick Ryder, followed by Susan George.
Thank you. I want to thank the members of the Democratic Central Committee for putting forward the resolution condemning the anti-Semitic assault on Manny's and the escalating violence against the Jews. I stand before you, the daughter of a Holocaust survivor, the granddaughter and niece of many who did not survive. And I want to thank you for sponsoring this vitally important resolution. It's so unfortunate that I have to stand here before you and say this, because I grew up in Hungary under communist rule. And I really felt for the first time when I came to this country that I was safe. And once again, I do not feel safe. The attacks at Manny's, in the marina, in Boulder, Colorado, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia must be condemned. We must call them out whenever we see them for what they are. They are part of a nationwide surge of violent attacks against the Jewish people. And as the poem goes, if they come after us, they will come after you. I urge you, please vote yes on a resolution condemning anti-Semitism and stand with us. It's not just enough for a resolution. Speak out, and when you see it, stand with us and help us overcome this scourge.
Next, I have Susan George. Susan,
Good evening, everyone.
one second, sorry, reset. And you're a delegate, yeah,
I am, I'm an AB 19
moving
delegate,
us to 4.
Catherine Stephanie's district. I probably won't need it 4 minutes. I just really want to thank the authors, the co-sponsors for bringing this forward. It's a timely manner, how important it is that we come together as a community and bear witness to what has happened in our own community, in our own backyard. And you probably all know that what happened at Manny's, this was not the first time. It's happened several times. And yet this time was a bit worse than the others. The rhetoric was worse. What happened in the marina, I just found shocking. I'm sure you all did too. But we're here to say, not on our watch, never. No person should live in fear, ever, from any background. Tonight we're focusing on the Jews and what's happened at Manny's, what happened in Marina, what happened in Boulder, what happened in DC, what happened in Pennsylvania. I'm just grateful that we're doing this together. It will make us stronger as a community. And I thank you all. Please vote yes, and I hope it's unanimous. Thank you.
for your comment. Give me 1 second, folks. I'm gonna scoot us all over a little bit here, so that I can fit one more person into this table. Welcome, Madam Fowler. All right. Matthew Hughes, you're up.
Thank you very much. I just want to start by thanking everybody here for coming together around item 9 on the agenda regarding condemnation of anti-Semitism. I feel grateful for this, but I don't feel grateful for it in the way in which one might feel grateful for receiving a gift that they did not expect. I feel grateful for it insofar as I feel grateful that our leadership is doing more than what is strictly necessary, but certainly what is strictly necessary in the face of violent anti-Semitism. And so this is not gratuitous thanks that I give you, okay? It's the thanks that one receives for being afforded at least a modicum of safety, the safety that all of us deserve. But the safety that I think, as insofar as Democrats are concerned, one that has long been overlooked. There is a problem, I think, in taking issue with the fact that your neighbor's lawn has a swastika in front of it, when there is in your living room a jihadist who is openly declaring for the death of Israel and is openly declaring himself to be an enemy of the Jewish people. If he's in your living room and all you can do is condemn the swastika on your neighbor's lawn, you are less believable, less effective against the kind of anti-Semitism that we need to stand against in the face of Donald Trump, who you rightfully call out in this item. But I would just put to your attention the last words where you admit that there is not just that kind of anti-Semitism, but another. I think we should prepare our intuitions for what has long been at home in this party and that has to be addressed. And here at the Royal Wallenberg Club, for whom they saw fit to make me a member of the board, we would like to work with you in recognizing that anti-Semitism when it turns its head in our own home. Thank you.
All right, my next set of names are Sam Lauder, Rona Berger, Josephine Zhao, and Elizabeth Cohen. Sam Lauder.
Hi, everybody. I am Sam Lauder. It's nice to see all of you. First, I want to thank actually all the co-sponsors, especially Willie Owen and Kingsbury, for all of the work you put in putting this forward. One side of my family got to San Francisco in 1847, the other in 1898. My family didn't suffer through the anti-Semitism that was so prevalent in Europe, in the Middle East. Anti-Semitism was here. My parents' house that I grew up in, they bought just a couple of decades after Jews were banned, still banned from being able to live in that neighborhood. One grandfather used his fists on the streets of San Francisco. There was a Nazi bookstore opened in the outer Richmond in the 70s. My other grandfather was the first Jew that asked to join the Olympic Club. He turned it down with some salty language. But I never thought I'd see in my town what we're seeing now. And the fact that you are calling it out is what I have been missing for a long time, which is our allies standing with us, standing openly with us, out and brave enough to be standing next to the Jewish community. So for that, I thank you. For those of you that I haven't spoken to before this vote, I want to thank all of you that are with us, and the rest of you, I hope you can join in the unanimous decision.
Thank you for your comment. Up next, I have Rona Berger.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting us speak today. And thank you so much for sponsoring this bill condemning anti-Semitism, or resolution rather. I think it reflects a growing need to push back against violent anti-Jewish hatred in our city. I think war abroad has given people an excuse to commit hate crimes against Jews in our community and political cover for our leaders to ignore these crimes as they see fit. On a personal note, Jews leaving an area is often a sign of a deep societal rot. And I can tell you that there are many, many Jews that I know that have already left San Francisco and are considering leaving in the coming months. I went to the Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem, in Jerusalem, and they talked about something really interesting that I didn't know before, even as a descendant of Hungarian Holocaust survivors myself, which is that when they rounded up Jews in Budapest and lined them up against the Danube River and shot them, the Nazis didn't do that. Their neighbors did that. And I want you to think about what kind of neighbor you're going to be in the coming weeks, months, and years. If you agree that nobody should experience the violence and hatred in our city and in our country, you should vote in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Up next, I have Josephine Zhao, followed by Elizabeth Cohen, Cecile Vara, and Henny Kelly.
Sorry, good evening. My name is Josephine Zhao, President of Chinese American Democratic Project Club. Happy Pride. I'm here to speak to the homeless equity resolution. Every district deserves clean streets. Equity is about uplifting those in need in order to achieve excellence, not diminishing those who are already thriving. The Eastern District requires targeted support to address homelessness and addiction, but this should not involve spreading chaos to other districts. Instead, we should rally other districts in support of treatment and recovery, such as well-managed closed campus facilities that operate like hospitals and rehabs. Additionally, we should prioritize treatment first in the Eastern District, moving away from harm reduction and housing first model. By focusing on treatment and rehab, we empower individuals to regain their independence, the true path towards equity. Uplifting every district means ensuring that resources are used efficiently and effectively, creating a more unified and sustainable approach to equity. It's not just about redistributing burdens, but about building up each community through thoughtful, community-centered solutions that respect the needs and strengths of all San Franciscans. I'd also like to express our support for the Jewish community. As Democrats, we should oppose any forms of bigotry, including anti-Asian hate, anti-Semitism, Islamophobic, and xenophobic. This is San Francisco that we love for our diversity. Thank you. See you Sunday class.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth Cohen. There. Cool. Sorry. Reset. And when you're ready.
Hello everyone, I am here to urge you all to support the SFDCCC resolution condemning anti-Semitism. My name is Elizabeth Cohen. I've lived in San Francisco for 7 years, and I am a proud Jew. What we've seen happen to Manny's on multiple occasions, what happened in the marina, and other incidents of anti-Jewish bigotry are unacceptable, yet sadly not surprising. The rhetoric and demonization of the Jewish community around the world, in the United States, and here in the city is a travesty. It's 2025, and a Jewish-owned business has been vandalized repeatedly, evoking our community's collective trauma. Kristallnacht of 1938 in Germany and Austria, the Farhud of 1941 in Iraq, to name two of the far too many pogroms that have occurred around the world. While many continue to dismiss the Jewish community's very real concerns, believe me when I say we are on a dangerous path if this is not addressed. While we know these things don't happen in a vacuum, the rise of anti-Semitic incidents reflects deeper problems in how hate is tolerated in society, and we should know where unchecked anti-Jewish bigotry and anti-Semitism leads us. Now is the time to speak up, raise the alarm, and send an important message that hatred will not be tolerated in San Francisco. Thank you to those who introduced this bill and have sponsored this bill. I urge you all to vote yes. We need leaders to model the behavior of a healthy, thriving, inclusive, and safe community for all people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Seal Farah. There you are. Followed by Hen Kelly, Griselda Chavez, and then Oren Rubenstein.
Hello leaders, peace and blessings be upon you all. My name is Asil Farah. I currently serve on the San Francisco Immigrant Rights Commission. Also serve as a liaison to the Tenderloin community on behalf of the San Francisco Planning Department. Today I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a District 6 resident and also as someone who grew up in the neighborhood or in the Tenderloin neighborhood. And I'm here to express my strong support for their geographic equity ordinance. For far too long, neighborhoods like the Tenderloin, Soma, Bayview, and Mission have faced a disproportionate share when it comes to shelter and mental health services. I'll be very brief, just urging you all to support this. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you for your comment. And Kelly.
A lot of people have spoken about the anti-Semitic things that have happened. I was born in a very Jewish family. My father, his father, his father, and his father were rabbis. That's a really Jewish home. I learned about the fact that Jews were different and should be treated differently in my 4th grade class, where my teacher would not allow me to take a test because I was out for Yom Kippur. She said that I had to have the rabbi sign a statement that I was in the synagogue during the time that I was missing my test. Well, I gave her the signature, and she said, "That's your father, and I won't accept it." So I changed synagogues, and no, I didn't change it. That was the first time. The next time, this same teacher finally was being nice to me. You know what she said? "You can be the big sister of a new student who's coming into our class." I was so excited. She liked me enough to do that. That was really great. I was going to get along with her. I came home and told my daddy. And he said, "Tell me what the new student looks like. Tell me what color her skin is." She was the first black student in that class. I taught her how to fight. We had each other's backs. The teacher was against us from the beginning. I grew up. I was Jewish. I cared about that. I still care about that. No child should ever have that happen to her any way around. I walked with Martin Luther King in Washington, and in Chicago. And when I walked, I got spit on and rocks were thrown at me, and I was called a fucking dirty Jew. That's all I have to say about that. But what I did in San Francisco was I trained, and in Chicago, people to know about the Holocaust and to know about what was happening and never to let it happen to any people, Jewish people, Asian people, anybody. And so I want to thank you for resolution number 9. I'm glad you're here. And I do want to tell you one more thing. When I was teaching about the Holocaust, I taught 600 teachers how to teach it for one day for the whole year in every single course that we had. And many of them are still doing this. But I had a person who was the head of the schools who said, I'm sorry, we can't do this anymore, all this Holocaust stuff, because it doesn't teach
Thank you for your comment.
people how to read. So you should know you have enemies everywhere.
Griselda Chavez, followed by Warren Rubenstein, Michael Stone, and Manny Cutiel.
Good evening, my name is Griselda Marie Chavez. I'm an economic specialist here to urge you to vote yes on the resolution to support healthcare workers in Children's Hospital Oakland. I'm an employee there, and I want to let you know that though UCSF and Children's affiliated 10 years ago, UCSF has proven to be not the steward that they promised to be to us 10 years ago when we made the affiliation. They have currently introduced an integration which we feel is illegal against our contracts and illegal against the initial language around the affiliation. In the 10 years that we've been there, we have learned that UCSF is really big on streamlining services, and that's how they're packaging this integration to the community and this body. I'm here to tell you, in 10 years that I've been there, streamlining services means bundling services for East Bay families to here in San Francisco. And I think that this body can appreciate families and individuals that live far on the margins and how difficult it is to be able to be forced to travel distances for important care that used to be accessible to you, now being pushed further away. In addition to patients losing services, they are also losing beloved staff members. These are folks that have multi-generational relationships in Children's Hospital Oakland, a very proud Oakland institution. Everybody out in the East Bay has a Children's Hospital story, and they're losing their beloved staff members to early retirement because if UCSF gets its way with this integration, they will be forced to stay another 10 years if they want to get into their pension program there. So I wanted to also let you know that what's happening is that UCSF is forcing me and all my fellow members of NUHW out of the union that we voted for. Boo! Yes. And in addition to that, I have crunched the numbers and have learned that I actually can't afford to be a UCSF employee. I will be forced to pay for a pension, healthcare costs that are almost $1,000 a month. So I'm gonna have to start looking for another job. Please vote yes on this resolution. Support healthcare workers at Children's Hospital Oakland.
Thank you for your comment. Up next, I have Warren Rubenstein, followed by Michael Stone, followed by Manny Cutiel. Warren?
Thank you for everybody here who's considering and sponsored and for the unanimously vote for the resolution against anti-Semitism and the attack at Manny's. I already submitted a statement, which maybe you've read. My name is Warren, but I thought I'd read something else just for the group here.
And I'm glad there are so many people here that are speaking on the subject. I think you'll notice, with one exception, I think, we're exclusively Jews. So I'm hoping that when this is passed, that will be more representative of the community as people speak up against anti-Semitism. I'm a father, I'm a longtime resident here in San Francisco, and I'm a very proud, unapologetic Jew. And I will add that as people have spoke about their distant relatives that experienced the Holocaust, I can tell you that my family in Israel, who all lived on Kibbutz Be'eri, were slaughtered on October 7th. 5 members of my family. And one of he's my first cousin, he's still there, dead. They shot him in the head, and worse. And he's still one of the 53 hostages that are left, I think. And so, you know, when I hear people chant and scroll in the windows and spray paint on murals and put up murals and yell in the streets and attack nannies, and forgive me, I'm going to use some of the language that I think is already in that resolution. You know, death to Israel, die, Zio, F Israel, F the Jews, decolonize, and worse. You know, these are calls for violence. And I don't debate the intent. I recognize it, I feel scared by it, and we all should. This is the real outcome of that kind of rhetoric. You know, in the distance, I think, between kill the Zionists and kill the Jews is razor thin. It's sort of a political correct cover. Die Zio, dead settlers, and the rest of it. And sadly, most of us all know the tropes. So me saying them here is not probably new. And I don't think we're shocked by that. Call for murder, violent assault. Oh, shoot.
Sorry. Thank you for your comment.
And more.
Michael Stone.
Hi everybody, my name is Michael, and I want to address the resolution on anti-Semitism. Firstly, I want to say thank you. I know this took a lot of work, and I encourage you all to vote in favor of it. Secondly, I want to say that although it's not nice to be here for the reason I'm here, I'm glad we are currently addressing the pervasive issue of anti-Semitism in this city. For the past year and a half, Jews in the city have been consciously or subconsciously removed from progressive life, socially and politically. Hopefully, none of us in this room are too surprised by this, however, as soon after October 7th, during this committee's resolution to pass a ceasefire, Jews were subject to numerous incidents of Holocaust denial, outright anti-Semitic tropes, and Jewish tokenization. It was painful and a frightening look into what was come. There was also silence in opposition. Since then, anti-Semitism has insidiously reared its head over and over again. I can't even keep count of the complaints I've sent to 311 about anti-Semitic graffiti that I've personally seen. Then, what happened at Manny's and in the Marina, just a week after the brutal murder of a Jew and an Israeli outside of a Jewish event in DC, and a hate crime against Jews in Boulder, sent everything over the top that had already boiled over and over and over again. I'm thankful for this resolution and for this group not remaining silent in the face of this violent hate, and I ask for more continuous noise to be made. I'll leave you with one other anecdote. The other day, on the steps of City Hall, I was part of this beautiful community hearing where the mayor and other political leaders condemned anti-Semitism in this city. Throughout a large part of this session, I will tell you though, I can say that I wasn't listening. Why? I was visualizing what I would do if and when a gunman rushed onto the steps to kill Jews. Sadly, this is a common occurrence for me and others at Jewish in this city. This isn't okay. Why should I feel that way? So please let us continue to stand up for Jews in the city and in progressive spaces, and please vote yes in favor of this resolution. And thank you again.
And then, Manny, could you help, check on me, texting something. Yeah.
Hi, Mandy.
Hello.
I know that, what happened to your cafe is the subject of the resolution, so I'll give you as much time as you want to address the body.
Oh, thank you very much. I don't know that I need too much time. A lot of what people said, I think, very much I very much appreciate the sentiment. And I do want to thank all the people who were involved in writing this. Almost immediately afterwards, people in this body asked me if this was something that I was okay with, if this was something, or when I thought about it, well, maybe I'll take a step back. A lot of you know that there's been a lot of thoughts about my space, there's been a lot of reactions to it, and in some cases, graffiti, vandalization. It's not the first time that my windows have been broken. But the reason why I think this is important now, and the reason why I think it bears taking seriously and voting and approving it, is because of the context of what happened to my business and what's happened in our country. First of all, I just want to say that it was not my goal when I moved here to become the face of anti-Semitic violence. It's a very uncomfortable thing for me, and I think for a lot of Jews to talk about. I think a lot of Jews, it awakens something deep within us, something that we're taught as kids, and it's not something that I want to talk about. It's not something that I like being a subject about. But a couple weeks ago, I was actually in Israel visiting my family, and I was there when the news broke that the 2 Jewish people were murdered in DC. And these people were murdered just for being associated with Israel. These were people who also were practicing peace missions. And they were shot 26 times in the back. 2 people exiting an event were shot 26 times in the back, 26 times. And I remember when that happened thinking, maybe selfishly, these people aren't even associated with Israel publicly the way I am. And so when I heard that, I honestly felt, even though I was in a country that was in the middle of a war, more afraid to come back home and to be in the city that I love than I felt there. And so when I talk about the context, there are a lot of Jews in not just our city, but all over this country who are very, very scared right now. They are afraid that if they wear a Jewish star, if they speak Hebrew out loud, if they are even in some way associated with Israel, whether they believe in the war or not, whether they support a ceasefire, whether they said it's a genocide or not, just being visibly Jewish in this country right now is a hazard. And so I was nervous when I came home, and I actually, my very Jewish mother was asking me to get security, and I thought it should be fine. When the vandalization actually happened, it was the first time that it really hit me. And I think it was because of how violent it actually was. The people who were breaking down the window, they were trying to enter into the business. We had an event going on at that time. And the people who were inside called me. I had just come home to the Castro. And the woman, I'm never going to forget it. She was shaky voice. She was actually afraid for her life, and she did not know what to do. And I rushed over. And the 4 minutes it takes to get from 19th and Castro to 16th and Valencia, I, as you can imagine, had every scenario going on in my mind. Are my customers okay? Are they inside the business? Why are they there? Thank God no one was hurt in the actual incident. But because of what happened in DC, because of what happened in Colorado, and because of some of the rhetoric that we're hearing, rhetoric that has moved from very valid criticism of the war, very valid criticism of Netanyahu and Israel, into scapegoating Jews and anyone associated with Israel as an enemy that must be ended or eliminated. That context, I do think, makes this resolution extremely important for the most progressive, the most loving city in America to affirmatively approve unanimously. Because it sends a strong message that no matter where you are, no matter what your politics are, attacking a Jewish business owner, attacking any Jew for what they believe is not okay. The last thing I'll say is, and I don't want to speak for the Jewish community because we fight a lot. The last thing I'll say is there is this feeling within the Jewish community, from what I hear, that there are certain ways of speaking about us and to us that get a pass that would not fly with other minorities. I want to remind people that there are about 15 million Jews in the world, something like that. We're an extreme minority. I'm an Afghan Jew. There's like 4,000 Afghan Jews in the world. And we feel and we exist as a deep minority in the world, in this country. Some of the things that Henry was saying, other people have said, are our lived experiences. But for some reason, it feels like if people attack Jews, if Jews feel that they're being singled out, that it's okay, or can be explained away. And so I think it's very important now, when that anti-Semitic rhetoric is unfortunately turning into anti-Semitic violence, that this body take it seriously and just say it's not okay in our city. So I appreciate you. It is very difficult for me to talk about this stuff and to re-experience what happened. I hope it's the last time. And I just want to say thank you to the other people who spoke, because it can be very nerve-wracking, especially now, to stand up here as a proud Jew and say that we also deserve to be thought of and protected. So thank you very much.
If any of the members of the public wish to give public comments, the time to do so is now. I have slips out on the outside. You can bring one to me, or I've been keeping track of who's been speaking. If you haven't given me a slip, you can just come take the mic and I'll just write down your name.
Okay, I put in the slip, but it's okay.
Shit. Yeah, I don't know where it went. Go ahead, Gia, Daniel Katz.
Hi, Gia Daniel Katz. I'm the president of the Raoul Wallenberg Jewish Democratic Club, and it's powerful and wonderful to be here with so many Democratic colleagues and friends. 4 nights before Manny's wonderful cafe and civic gathering space was attacked, our club had a happy hour there with Board of Supervisors President Raphael Mendelman. One of our board members instinctively posted the invite for the event until I thought about it right after she told me she had done that, and suggested that maybe we shouldn't do that this time. Everyone on our WhatsApp board thread agreed. No public postings. First time that we wouldn't post it on Facebook, on Eventbrite, or anywhere other than through our dedicated email list and safe personal networks. A week or so before, 2 young adults who worked at the Israeli embassy, one of them a Jewish American, had been shot and killed at point blank range, as you heard from Manny, while leading an event for young adults at the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. It was shocking, but sadly, not entirely surprising. Around 10 days later, a solidarity march in Boulder, Colorado for the hostages still in Gaza was firebombed with Molotov cocktails, resulting in serious injuries. I then started to get texts and emails leading up to our event from prospective attendees asking me if there would be security at Manny's, urging me to arrange for security. Thankfully, I knew who to call at the SFPD to see what might be possible. And due to the recent heightened security threat, and maybe because Supervisor Mendelman was going to be with us, the SFPD agreed to have a presence across the street. All went well, and another wonderful community building event took place at Manny's without incident, with his love and support. But we all know what happened 4 nights later. The situation was different, chillingly different. And that's what hate violence and hate rhetoric aims to do, to frighten and harm people, to frighten and harm whole communities. So I know that most of you know from the letters and from your own lived experiences why anti-Semitism should never be tolerated. I submitted a letter with many of the reasons, and you've heard many of them tonight. So I'm going to use my remaining time, inspired by Sam, Water, Henny Kelly, Manny, and others, to to make things a bit personal. Thankfully, I never have experienced the direct hate and vitriol that Penny described. But unlike Sam, my parents and my family wasn't from here. My mother was born in Poland in 1938 and survived the Holocaust as a child. My father grew up in South Africa with under an Afrikaner regime that sided with the Germans. When they came here as an adult and started a family with the vision of no place being better than America and being able to live free and be able to have a future that they never were able to have in their childhood and what led them to decide to leave their countries of origin. But at the same time, even though that was their goal and their vision, I grew up with parents who saw an anti-Semite everywhere. I think a lot of people have this experience. They never really trusted. And I rejected that. I chose to work in the Jewish community and tried to bring joy and always build relationships. But I have to say, these last few years, and for years I've known about various incidents, especially being someone who worked professionally on these issues. But in more recent times, I found myself saying and doing the same things for my young child, I now have a 12-year-old, that my parents did.
Thank you for your comment.
And I think all of us can agree that that's not what we want, not the present and not the future. And so thank you, all of you, for your leadership and for the sponsors and co-sponsors of this resolution. I urge your support.
Thank you for your comment. My apologies, Matthew was here. Any other last public commenters who wish to give comment? Madam Chair, in the time since we started in-person public comment, we received 2 more written public comments, and I am now pressing send, so you have them in everybody's inbox. There you go.
Thank you, Executive Director Sven Bjorn. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6. It is our reports from our officers. So it is Pride Month. I will have a brief chair's report. It is Pride Month, and we were intentional about selecting Castro as our location for our Dems on the Move and their monthly meeting. Vice Chair Hare will be giving a report on our activities, and she was responsible for coordinating this month's activities. But before we get to that, I'd like to call on the proxy for Senator Scott Wiener, Majority Barrientos, who is going to provide a short statement from Senator Wiener in line of Pride.
Happy Pride and welcome to the Castro. As Trump and his MAGA extremists continue their assault on our community, including by trying to defund our schools and hospitals this week to stop trans kids from getting medical care and playing sports, San Francisco continues to lead the way on welcoming and protecting LGBTQ people, especially our transgender siblings. This incredible city has blazed forward for so much resistance and progress for decades. We've blazed the trail on civil rights and made our state a refuge for transgender people and their loved ones. We're continuing that fight today by resisting the cruel actions of this fascist administration, by strengthening our state of refuge laws, by protecting funds for LGBTQ health programs in this year's state budget, and so much more. I'm excited and proud to celebrate our progress with all of you and prepare to fight side by side in the days and years ahead.
Thank you, proxy for Senator Wiener. Now we're moving on to standing committees. I believe that member Alio here has an update for endorsements.
Great.
Okay, there we go. Hi. Right, perfect. So just a real quick update on endorsement committee. I'd first like to welcome my new partner in crime, Farah. The two of us will be the endorsement committee moving forward, with Carrie Barnes is now absent from DCCC. Looking forward to it, Farah. But the update really centers around the recall. As I think most of you know by now, the recall for the District 4 spot has gone through and been certified by the Department of Elections. As a result, we will be having an endorsement, whether or not to support the recall here at the DCCC on July. The questionnaires will go out to the candidate and to the recall campaign in the next few days. We expect to have them back by July 15th-ish in time so that it'll be posted before the July 30th meeting. So that will be a special, so all members of the DCCC, please note that down. We will be having our interviews before the actual meeting, so everything's gonna take place all at the same time on July 30th. And we would love to have your attendance. It will be in person this time. We did hold our last endorsements on Zoom, but this one will be in person.
Thank you, Member Alio here. Also members, in terms of that special meeting on the 30th, which will be a combined endorsement interview and endorsement vote. That will be at the State Building, which is our regular state location. Moving on to
July 30th?
July 30th, what did I say? July 30th. Okay, any other officers? Let's move to Vice Chair here.
Hello, there we go. Good evening, colleagues. So as mentioned, this month we are in the Castro for Pride. We've been all over the Castro, meeting people from all walks of life. We all know the Castro for many things, one of them being nightlife. So we had a panel on nightlife in San Francisco and a 24-hour city. What could a 24-hour city in San Francisco be? What are the barriers? What are the challenges? What are the designs? Is there a demand? And it was great to have a member of this body, Assemblymember Matt Heaney, join us for that, who has championed nightlife issues in Sacramento for us. We also gathered volunteers to help lay out the peak triangle on top of Twin Peaks, which has been a great sign of resilience for the LGBTQ community, very relevant for many of the comments here today as well. We also had an event highlighting politics for the playground. Home to LGBTQ communities and nightlife. It is also home to many families. And in San Francisco, we have fewer families than many cities, and so we need to embrace them, the ones that we do have, and all of the shapes and sizes they come in. So we had a politics in the playground event. And last but not least, my colleagues, Member Sandarani and Member Wen, had a community coffee hour on Sunday where we invited Democrats from across San Francisco to come and meet their representatives and share their concerns and their issues and their hopes and their disappointments for our party and our city. And we had quite a good showing. I was really proud of how many people came to that. And finally, we are here at the LGBTQ Center, wrapping up our month of all things Castro, all things District 8. So I want to thank all the members who participated in these events. I also want to elevate that a lot of members did their own fundraising for LGBTQ causes. They did their own events to elevate the issues around the LGBTQ community in San Francisco, so thank you for that. And last but not least, I hope to see every single one of you at the Pride Parade on Sunday. Now more than ever, we need to march, whether we are members of the community or allies, march with this community in this great parade. I know Josephine Vow said she'll be there, so I hope to see everyone else as well. Thank you.
Okay, next up in our officers' reports, proxy for Director Coles, Member Kingsbury, you have a report for Director Coles on external operations?
I do. For external affairs, or external operations, this last month was the California Democratic Convention. We had a good contingent here from the party. We brought 6 resolutions to the convention. 3 of them passed, 1 of them was reaffirmed. 2 of them will move on to e-board. The next meeting of the Democratic Party, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the next regular meeting is going to be February of 2026 at a yet to be determined location. The board will be deciding that. We also hosted an event at the Jazz Kitchen in downtown Disney. There's a packed house. Turn out well. That's the report.
Great, thank you very much. And then we move on to Executive Director Van Buren.
Thank you, Chair Tom. So, members, I have a few brief updates summarizing some of the elements of what Vice Chair Hare and Kingsbury said and some other things. One, I wanted to recap all of the events that we co-hosted. So, in addition to the Dems on the Move events that took place in the Castro around the future of nightlife and SF panel with Assemblymember Haney, the Big Triangle installation, sorry, it's here somewhere, the community coffee in the Castro, and the, I believe those are the big ones. And then on top of that, throughout the month, we opportunistically were asked to either co-host or amplify several things, including the rapid response press conference on the ICE raids that took place, or I guess were escalating over the course of the month, and the arrest of David Huerta with 87 and the Labor Council. We were also asked to attend and support a press conference with Mayor Lurie, the Interfaith Council, and other community leaders responding to ICE raids. These both happened in the middle of the month. We amplified a call to action from the Castro LGBTQ Communities Cultural District, for the 90th memorial of the 49 individuals who were killed in the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida on June 12th. We amplified and shared out the calls to action around the No Kings March and demonstration on June 14th. And we also had a couple of our members participate in a panel discussion hosted by the Potrero Democratic Club and the Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club on what is the future of the Democratic Party. So those are the things we did this month, make some Dems on the Move and non-Dems on the Move stuff. I want to reiterate that just because we're doing focused events in each particular neighborhood each month, that does not mean we can't do other things throughout the city. So as always, if you have an event idea, an event thing you want to do, bring it to me, bring it to the chair as well. The 2 other big things I wanted to highlight, and I know Region 7 Director Kelly is going to mention some of these as well. One, the deadline to apply to participate in a committee with the state Democratic Party, so they have their own standing committees in addition to our local county. The state Democratic Party has their own standing committees. If you are interested, because all of you are delegates, as well, we know who went to convention. If you're interested in applying for them, the deadline to apply is July 6th at 11:59 p.m. Interested delegates that have questions or thoughts on participating in that, and I know Director Kelly is going to share some additional thoughts, are encouraged to email her, and most of you should have her email, but I will circulate it again if you need it. And or the operations at kdem.org folks. That's the staff at the state party. In addition, the other thing I want to share an update on, because we've gotten a lot of communication about it, is for charter Democratic clubs, the deadline for pre-endorsing conferences, all of the details and the minutiae around that is coming up quickly. High level is that clubs need to get their rosters in order by July 22nd. That's the deadline to have people on their rosters that you be a member good standing by, and they need to submit those rosters to the state party by August 6th of this year. Director Kelly, again, is who I'm going to predominantly be pointing questions towards around that process. but I'm always here as a resource for anyone that might come to you all. I know also Vice Chair Hare, as the chair of the Clubs and Charter Committee, is also proactively trying to wrangle clubs and make sure they have the information they need. So those are the updates I have. I will send a more complete written report afterwards, but thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Executive Director. Regional Director Kelly, would you like to provide an update?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You can go wherever you want.
Okay. First of all, I want to say that I was really happy that so many of you got to go to the convention. I was at the convention. However, I was doing a different thing than everybody else. I was sitting in the hospital, lying down. It was very exciting. I have never, fainted, and I've never had so many really good-looking young men put me on a gurney, touch my body, and take me to hospital. That was really nice. I like that. But what I did while I was there, I was in 2 different hospitals, okay? The first one was a training hospital, and I was my bed was right next to where all of the calls come in. So I knew what was going on with everybody. It was exciting. And I started talking to the people who were training to be nurses and doctors and all of that. And I explained to them how important it was for them to talk to the patients about how important it is for them to vote correctly. Or else there would be no more hospitals and there would be no more helping people get well. And then I went over to another hospital and did the same thing. So I was working for the Democratic Party while you were sitting there working for the Democratic Party. And I really thought it was a fun time to have. So now, I'd just like to tell you that it is important to get all those things in to this lady so that she can check them. But when you put in the names of the people that are your members, please try and get the names that they signed for being a Democrat on there, because that's checked. All of those things are checked. And you know that for every 20 members you have, you will get 1 person who will be a voter that is a pre-endorsement vote. And that's a very important thing. We fought for this for years because we wanted to have regular guys and regular gals there to say who they wanted to elect, who they wanted to bring forward. Now, there are some problems with this, and I'm going to explain that to you. I belong to 7 clubs. I can only be 1 person. So what I have always done when we do it is we go through and we make sure if there are 19 people here and there's 1 person right over there that is in 5 other clubs, that person goes to the 19 to get up to the 20, so you get another person to be done. It's a really important thing. It really does something. It explains to the people who are delegates and to the people who are already in office that we, the club members, know who we want to endorse. And I think it's a really good thing to do. So I want to make sure you do that. If you want to be a part of a, what was that other thing we were doing?
Standing committee?
Thank you so much. That's why I like this guy. He remembers what I done. If you want to be on the standing committees, let me know so I can, I'm really important. And I could put in a good word for you. So that's an important thing too. And I can tell you about almost all of the committees because I have been on many of them and I go to all the committee meetings that I can. I've been doing it for the last 20 years. So that's an important thing if you want to do that. But remember, committees do have a job at the executive board, but they also, when this was a convention, but at the executive board meetings, they have committee meetings. So it means that you have to travel somewhere else and then come back. And that's about it. And I just want to thank you. And anytime anybody wants to put me on a gurney, I will.
Thank you, Regional Director Henny Kelly. She's here all night. All right, moving on. Are there any other reports from our committees or officers? Okay, no other reports, great. So we are on to item number 7, which is a resolution in support of the ordinance to establish geographic equity in the siting of homeless shelters and behavioral health services. And we have Member Mahmoud with us. Thank you for joining us. Is there a motion to consider this item?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Chair Harris. Thank you. Seconded by Member Santori. So, Member Mahmoud, floor is yours.
Thank you, colleagues. Apologies for being late. We are in the budget process of the Board of Supervisors right now, and I'm recessed till 9 o'clock, so please take longer than that. Want to share some brief comments on the intention behind this resolution, as well as the data and evidence behind the framework that is guiding it. But firstly, I think we have to acknowledge that homelessness is one of the most urgent and intractable challenges facing San Francisco. And as a city, we have for years pursued fragmented, reactive solutions that have resulted in scattered investments, isolated pilot programs, and crisis-driven responses, not holistic, forward-looking agendas or solutions. And the problem is only deeper. Tonight, we have the opportunity to support a framework that finally offers a forward-thinking, citywide, data-driven, and equity-centered approach to this crisis. In my day job, I represent the Tenderloin, one of the neighborhoods that has long carried the weight of this humanitarian emergency in the city. And every day, our residents live alongside the consequences of a system that is both overburdened and broken. Yet the Tenderloin is not alone. Communities like Soma, The Mission, Bayview, and Nob Hill are overwhelmingly low-income communities and communities of color, have housed the vast majority of the shelter beds and behavioral health services. Let's look at the data. 95% of emergency shelter and transitional housing sites are concentrated in districts 3, 5, 6, 9, and 10. 95% are in 5 districts. Districts 1, 4, 7, 8, and 11 have 0 emergency shelters. Unsurprisingly, those same districts have an unsheltered rate of 75% of the total homeless population, meaning that those districts that have 0 emergency shelter have unsheltered rates of 75%. The imbalance isn't just unfair, it's inefficient. When services are concentrated in just a few neighborhoods, it strains the local schools, businesses, and public spaces. It burns out providers and erodes trust. Importantly, it makes it harder for unhoused residents in other parts of the city to directly access care where they most need it. I've been on the ground and morning and night with HOT teams that have been trying to get people into shelter. The #1 reason they are told that people refuse shelter is that it is too far away from where they are. Residents in Richmond have refused shelter directly because they don't want to go to the Tenderloin. They live in the Richmond. Supervisor Melgar has talked about a man who died in the streets of her neighborhood because he grew up in that neighborhood and did not not feel comfortable leaving because there was no shelter in that district. The solution, these failures don't just hurt the communities in Tenderloin and turn, they hurt the individuals who need the access to care, that don't receive a bed, or fall into cycles of crisis because their services aren't deployed where they're needed. The solutions that we've implemented simply do not effectively meet unhoused residents where they're needed and further exacerbate the issue, leading to undignified living conditions that are entirely preventable. The ordinance that we are here to endorse as a resolution aims to guarantee more efficient deployment of services for residents where they are and prioritize issues as one city rather than multiple. UCSF research shows that 90% of unhoused individuals remain close to the neighborhood or county where they've lost stable housing. If we want to reduce unsheltered homelessness, we have to meet people where they are, not just geographically, but emotionally. That means offering care in every neighborhood. Let's look at the data again. In District 2, while it has 300 unhoused residents, it is one of the few districts outside of the core 5 that I mentioned that hosts an emergency shelter. And because of that, its unsheltered rate is under 50%, one of the lowest citywide. The lesson is clear. When shelter is available locally, people use it. As a city, it's time to take data-driven decisions to make progress where we have not been able to before. There are 4,000 unsheltered residents in San Francisco. And these aren't statistics on a sheet. It's someone's friend, a brother, or sister, or a child. And we have to be honest with ourselves. What we've been doing as a city isn't working. That's why I joined Supervisors Walton, Melgar, Fielder, Sauter, and Dorsey in introducing legislation to finally bridge this balance at the Board of Supervisors. The proposal would do 3 things. Require that every district approve at least one new shelter, transitional housing site, or behavioral health facility by next year. Establish a 1,000-foot buffer between new and existing facilities to prevent harmful clustering unless waived for compelling interest. Mandate twice-yearly public hearings so departments must report transparently on progress, citing challenges and how many people are actually being served. Let me be clear, this does not change planning codes or zoning rules. It simply changes how the city prioritizes its funding by investing where services are lacking. The city will build more shelters. It's time to take a thoughtful approach to think where we think about their placement. This resolution offers a path forward, one that delivers both better outcomes for unhoused residents, eases the burden on overconnected neighborhoods, and builds a more just and functional system. I want to thank former supervisors Jane Kim and Matt Haney for laying the foundation for this work when they represented the Tenderloin. We stand on their shoulders today, and I hope that you will join me in supporting this resolution because San Francisco's democratic ideals are born out of equity, compassion, and care, and it is our responsibility as a Democratic Party to continue to uphold those values that guided the city and people for decades. We cannot move backwards.
Right, is there discussion on this item? Yes, Member Gallant is present.
Thank you, Chair Tum. Member Galata wanted to provide the following comments on item number 7. Thank you, Member Memberluth, for bringing forward this resolution along with members Dorsey and King. As a 16-year resident of Lower Nob Hill and the Upper Tenderloin, I especially appreciate the explicit inclusion of Lower Nob Hill in the language of this resolution and the recognition of the challenges that our neighborhood faces along with our sister neighborhood, the Tenderloin. I have witnessed firsthand a dramatic change in the Lower Nob Hill neighborhood over the past 5 years alone. As a current board member of my neighborhood association, I have never seen our neighbors more frustrated. In the 20 square blocks that make up Lower Nob Hill, the city has now cited 11 facilities, including temporary shelters, longer-term stay shelters, a navigation center, hotel conversions to shelters, and a behavioral health stabilization center. Many of these facilities were cited quickly and without much community engagement within the past 3 to 4 years. There is a lot of acknowledgement from neighborhoods like myself that we need these kinds of facilities for our unhoused neighbors and for people in crisis to receive services. We believe that more affordable housing and bringing people indoors is ultimately the solution to the crisis on our streets. But citing 11 facilities in 20 square blocks of one neighborhood is simply unsustainable, unmanageable, and inequitable. The economic impact alone to our neighborhood has been significant, resulting in many small businesses and hotel closures, while those that remain continue to struggle, especially along the Geary corridor. It is past time for the city to rethink its approach. Locating these facilities in neighborhoods has often taken a path of least community resistance approach that is particularly targeted communities of color, communities of renters, and communities with lower per capita income. This is completely unfair. To be clear, it is not the facilities themselves that are the problem. It is the overconcentration in specific areas of our city that needs to change. It is time that other neighborhoods take on their share of responsibility and that we have some accountability in the process for locating these facilities, which we can and all agree are much needed. I want to thank Supervisor Mahmood and Supervisor Walton for their leadership in bringing forward the Geographic Equity Ordinance at the Board of Supervisors. It is not easy to push this kind of proposal forward, but it is an important conversation that we need to be having as a city. And I know that many neighbors in Lower Nob Hill are in full support of this kind of proposal. I'm happy to be sponsoring this resolution, I'm happy to be supporting this resolution tonight and would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Yes, Member Kim.
There's 4 mics now.
Oh, great.
Thanks for that.
Hi.
I don't want to speak too long because actually both Supervisor Mahmood and Member Galata spoke eloquently to the objectives behind this resolution. I do want to thank the Supervisor for continuing this conversation and discussion because we raised it, I think, in 2015, 2016 with Supervisor then Cohen and Ronan. And it continued on with Supervisor Haney. And the conversation continues. And the data is all out there in terms of concentration of services and with the evidence and anecdotes as to why the current density of services just do not work in solving this crisis. One, there are multiple barriers as to why we are not solving homelessness, many of which are very difficult for us as a city to overcome. Most of it is structural, absence of enough spaces, land, physical constraints, etc. But the other is actually neighborhood opposition to having services where we actually have opportunities to have them. And just completely anecdotally, as someone who has represented the Tenderloin for 8 years and the South Market, there's something about concentration of services that really impact the community and the culture of that community. And there's a tipping point at which it becomes more of a challenge to actually solve some of that crisis. And I can tell you personally from having observed individuals who have managed to get services and leave the Tenderloin and South Market to other parts of the city, that it actually supports their healing process in a way where they are distant from some of the elements that actually encourage that behavior. And so that is one. And then two, just having services across the city, I think, is just an incredible way for we as a city to say that we are united in solving this crisis of homelessness and substance abuse throughout our district. So here to support as well, and glad to see that this resolution is here.
Thank you, Member Kim. There was another comment. Member Sanjaro.
Thank you, Supervisor, for sponsoring this resolution. I just want to confirm that among the kinds of shelter that we are looking to more actively distribute across the city includes shelters specifically for families with children, as well as people who are victims of domestic abuse. Is that correct?
So, the legislation is written to be flexible because every district is different. Every district, there's RV homeless, District 7. We don't have RV homeless in District 5. So it's written to be flexible for multiple types of shelter or behavioral health sites to fit the needs of the neighborhood or the district to meet those needs. Broadly, in terms of what we're hearing from HSH, and DPH, the main types of shelter that we will see being built regardless of any legislation is family shelter, DV shelter, and sober centers. So those are the three types of shelter that you're actually realistically talking about. But again, the type of shelter or behavioral health site that goes in a respective neighborhood will be the one to match the needs of that neighborhood. That's why we're not being prescriptive in the legislation about what type to regulate.
Member Robbins.
I appreciate having the opportunity to support this and the work that's being done to board supervisors today, and it's actually longstanding work. I agree with Member Kim and her comments about the structural issues that are really part of why we have the phenomenon of constant homelessness. And I also wanted to add a new name here for people who've actually been working on this issue. Prior to Supervisor Jane Kim was Supervisor Chris Daly, who actually was very pro-housing and pro-shelter and pro-services that accompanied shelters. Did a lot to actually improve the situation for people living in SROs, many formerly homeless people as well. And there was still a lot of ways to go, but he helped create some dignity for people who are living in the shelters. As we're looking at expanding shelters and housing for formerly homeless people across San Francisco, it's important to know that there are different levels of service needs in all the different neighborhoods where we'll be putting these services. So it's not just a shelter that comes in. I see the language out here recognizes that we have to have equitable distribution of resources. I actually think that's super important. I represent District 11, and we don't have a lot of resources in District 11. And what we did have during the Great Recession were cut, especially behavioral health and mental health services, and we never got them back. So if we're looking at this, increase and expansion of services into shelter services across the city, we also need to make sure that we're building the support resources and networks that are going to be needed in those places. It was actually important to know how London Breed was trying to establish the shelter along the waterfront, and how difficult that was to do. Their young place do actually have a tremendous amount of resources, and there was still difficulty. So I think it's important to really prioritize the resources along with the shelters as this is being done, and I would like to be a co-sponsor of this resolution as well.
Thank you, Member Robbins. Vice Chair Harris.
I, on this body, have the honor, as to many of you, of representing the Democrats in Assembly District 17, which includes many of the districts that have resources already, but also includes portions of districts that do not, including District 11 and District 8 and parts of District 7. So I've heard a lot of discussion about neighborhoods that are saturated with resources. I want to talk a little bit about neighborhoods that are not, and the challenges that we see that I hear about from my friends, my colleagues, my family members on the west side, and my constituents in West Portal specifically, about homelessness and about folks who need services. So one thing I love about San Franciscans is how much we love our neighbors, including those that are not housed, and including those that do not have a roof over their head. And I know that I hear from people that we want resources where these people can access them, where these people can use them, where these people can be still integrated into communities that are healthy and vibrant. And so I'm a proud co-sponsor of this legislation. I am a proud representative of both neighborhoods that have resources and neighborhoods that don't. And I know that this is the right thing for San Francisco, and I would hate for this conversation to become about East versus West Side, because those of us who represent AB 17 get to represent both. So I just like my colleagues to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Vice Chair Harris. Is there any other discussion? Member Line.
Thank you, Supervisor Buckley, for bringing this forward. I've had the personal experience of being a volunteer preschool teacher in the Tenderloin and seeing some of what, as former Supervisor Ken mentioned, on the impact to the community and the families of concentration, and then also now living in District 11, seeing unhoused folks who there's no shelters there. So very much spiritually in support. I talked to you this beforehand, but I'm also in my day job now doing some work with the administration on homelessness stuff, so I'm going to be abstaining from this resolution.
Thank you, Director Lai. Director Chen?
Thank you, Chair Doctor. I think the resolution and the legislation, I think is well intended, and, you know, as someone who came up from here from a pro-housing perspective and has done a lot of volunteering in the community, I think that the legislation's intent is sound. However, I have some questions about the technical implementation of this legislation that give me some pause. To wit, I think there are some. I have two questions that don't fully remain resolved in my head. Question one: will this legislation give more people a roof to sleep under? And question two: does this legislation conform to state law? As some of us know, that Mayor Daniel Lurie is currently working on adding more shelter beds, and what I have concerns that this legislation, because it requires an additional vote to approve additional shelters in specified areas, will create an impediment to creating more shelters and would mean that less people would have a place to stay that less people would have a place to stay. My other concern is around state housing law, and, you know, as someone who's following housing for a long time, the past 10 years, the general movement of state legislation and also slowly with city legislation is to streamline and to remove more things, more affordable housing, more shelter from additional votes and board approvals. And in particular, in 2019, I believe in 2019, Member August mentioned there was a big fight over the Embarcadero Navigation Center, and I was there speaking in support. And it was a big fight because it required a lot of approvals. And one thing that came out of the budget discussion in 2019 was that Governor Newsom, as part of the budget trailer bill, streamlined navigation centers, certain qualified navigation centers, so that they would not require more approvals. And my concern is that that this is a step back in our general approach to making sure that we have more housing, more affordable housing, more shelters by requiring more votes. An unresolved question in my head is whether California's Department of Housing and Community Development and the Attorney General's office has approved this language that is within the legislation. One additional thing is that I understand that major aspects of this legislation are still currently under negotiation with the mayor's office, and that my understanding is that this legislation also might not be taken up by the Board of Supervisors until September. And so because there are still many things, there's still sort of parts of this legislation that are still moving, and we may not know the full details of the implementation and the technicalities. I will move to postpone this item indefinitely until and give Member Mahmood and the sponsors time to resubmit when things are more detailed and or provide more information about some of these questions. Thank you.
I'm happy to answer those questions for you now. One, this will be heard in committee on July 16th, not September. So it is timely, just a couple weeks from now. So that's point number one. Point number two, the city attorney of the city and county of San Francisco does not believe that this violates our Fair Housing Act. We reached out to ICD and we're expecting a response. We trust the judgment of the city attorney of our city that believes that it does not violate Fair Housing Act. And the reason it does not do so is because this legislation, like I indicated, does not change any planning code. It does not change any zoning code. What it does is focus on the board's responsibility as a budget regulatory body to regulate how we are deciding where our money is spent. Shelter, by this legislation, can still be built anywhere in the city. This legislation, as is the governance of what the board can regulate, is only deciding where the city spends its money. A private shelter can still be built anywhere, so we're not changing any city code. Second, another component here is that this body has voted to endorse state legislation many times, mid-flight, that goes through multiple amendments through the fall. We've already endorsed state legislation earlier this year, to my understanding. And all of those are still being amended. So I think on the principle of what this body is, we as a body are not a legislative body. We are an endorsing body that states its body of principles of the values that we uphold. This legislation may change. Every legislation we have endorsed has changed, more or less, often before it is finally voted on the respective body that it represents. So on those three questions, I hope it's addressed those questions because that is the intent and the framework of what it is. This will still change, as do most legislation that we endorse. This does not affect planning or zoning code to affect the housing status. The city attorney has confirmed that. We are reaching out to UCD and have reached out to get a response firmly on that. But it is not the opinion of the city attorney that it does violate that. And the third is shelter can still be built in many places. And from a process perspective, the city attorney has confirmed that all we're doing from a process perspective is a vote at the Board of Supervisors when a site has to be approved, and that can be turned around within 7 days. We often do that at the board pretty regularly. We already, to this day, we already vote on pretty much every shelter that comes into place. We vote on the lease agreements. So adding in a 7-day vote approval just to get context on what we're trying to do as a board, and our role as a board is to decide where money is spent. And I think that is a reasonable amount of time. It's not resulting in an undue process. That is the framework to answer most of those questions.
Can I make a motion to approve this resolution?
I'm sorry, there is a motion on the floor. There's an existing motion on the floor.
Chair, it wasn't seconded.
Oh, this has been seconded?
Oh, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution.
So I heard Member Kingsbury second. But what are you seconding?
Member Chen.
So Member Chen has had a resolution, Member Chen had a motion to postpone indefinitely. I think it was seconded by Member Kingsbury. We should have a roll call vote.
Discussion. I'm curious, Member Chen, if my questions answer your question.
The motion to postpone indefinitely is debatable.
Okay. I thought that Member Buckland had given his comments.
But I'm just saying, but the motion to postpone indefinitely is a debatable motion. So the second, when you have a debate, obviously you choose what debate ends, but it is a debatable motion.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on that? Member Nguyen.
Hi, I am against this motion to table this indefinitely because I believe that Supervisor Mahmoud has answered the questions that were raised by Director Chen. Further, I think this is a very timely resolution because of its upcoming board vote in the next month. So I would urge our members to consider this motion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none.
I would,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would like to have a discussion. Yeah. Number 10, I would like to know, does my response answer your questions and the posit of why this motion is moved forward?
My questions about whether this would lead to more people being, having a roof under their heads, and whether this complies with state law are still not addressed.
Your reasoning for tabling was because this could be heard at any indefinite time, and this being heard next month. What are the other reasons? And that we don't endorse things that are going to be amended, but we do. And I shared that the city attorney has indicated that it does not violate state law. And broadly, the spirit of the law is saying that more shelter will be approved, not less. It does not move backwards, it does move forward in approving more shelter. So on each one of those principles is the reasoning for why you would table legislation. Theoretically, you would agree if something is not going to be heard eminently, I would agree, you should wait until it's being heard. That's why we did table this item last month, because I was told it's not being heard or scheduled. So I did, out of courtesy, delay the vote to closer to when the resolution would be heard. It's already been delayed once for that very specific reason. So I did not hear a reason for why you would table something indefinitely under the same suppositions.
But let me respond to the chair.
You may respond, Director.
Thank you. My understanding is that we will have more meetings before this legislation becomes finally passed, and there will be some time to go through this. The city attorney's office does not speak for the state, and I think that there are, even if I believe that Member Mahmood and I have similar intentions and similar goals, but disagree on the path to get there. And so that is why I'm asking why I am asking for a continuance and a postponement.
And I would qualify that you're welcome to have your disagreement, and that's why you should vote no on the resolution, to put it into the record. But you're setting a dangerous precedent on the original motion, but you're setting a dangerous precedent for saying that we have a vote coming up on an item that is meant to be heard in a couple of weeks, not in September, and saying that we simply, in every legislation going forward that is not going to be heard without further discussion, which usually happens, we would prefer to table those indefinitely. That is setting a dangerous precedent for other resolutions you might hear.
Thank you, Member Mahmood. I think Member Ali was here.
Can we call the question?
Okay, thank you. There's a request to call the question. Shall we take a roll call vote? Director Chen.
Just making sure calling the question is a motion that requires a 2/3 vote. Is this a vote to call the question, or is this a?
Just vote.
No, we're gonna vote now. We're gonna vote now, and we're gonna vote on your motion, Director Chen.
This is item 7. This is a motion to postpone indefinitely. The item moved by Chen, calling the roll, starting with Kim.
Yeah.
Kim, no. Lai. Abstain. Lai, abstaining. Mahmood.
No.
Mahmood, no. Kingsbury. Kingsbury, aye. Mar.
No.
Mar, no. Win.
No.
Win, no. Philhauer. Philhauer, abstain. Sangiardi.
No.
Sangiardi, no. 2.
Yes.
2, aye. Akbar.
No.
Akbar, no. Aliotapir.
No.
Aliotapir, no. Arce.
Aye.
Arce, aye. Avalos.
No.
Avalos, no. Calamucci.
No.
Calamucci, no. Chandler.
No.
Chandler, no. Chen is aye. Coles.
Abstain.
Coles, abstain. Galata.
No.
Galata, no. Gupta.
No.
Gupta, no. Hare.
No.
Hare, no. Ho.
Aye.
Ho, aye. Ex officios. Pelosi. Pelosi, no. Mullen.
No.
Mullen, no. Koumalakis.
Abstain.
Koumalakis, abstain. Ma.
No.
Ma, no. Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Weiner.
Abstain.
Weiner, abstain. Haney.
Same.
Haney, abstain. Stephanie.
Aye.
Stephanie, aye. Chair Tom.
Abstain.
Abstain. Have all those who wish to vote voted? By vote of 7 for aye, 16 for no, 7 abstain, 2 absent, the motion fails.
All right, motion to table indefinitely has failed. Is there any motion?
Motion to approve the resolution.
Okay, motion to approve by Vice Chair Hare. Is there a second? Second by Member Kim. Let's have a roll call vote.
This is item 7, motion to approve the resolution. Lead author is Mahmood. Let's see, it's calling the roll from Lai. Lai abstain. Mahmood. Mahmood, aye. Kingsbury.
No.
Kingsbury, no. Mar.
Aye.
Mar, aye. Win.
Aye.
Win, aye. Philhauer.
Abstain.
Abstain. Senturati.
Aye.
Aye. 2.
Yep.
2, aye. Akbar.
Aye.
Akbar, aye. Elliot Appear.
No.
Elliot Appear, no. Arce.
Abstain.
Arce, abstain. Avalos.
Aye.
Avalos, aye. Kalamuchi.
Aye.
Kalamuchi, aye. Member Chen is absent. Chandler.
Aye.
Chandler, aye. Chen is no. Coles.
Abstain.
Coles,
Sorry. Aye.
Coles is aye. Dorsey is absent. Galata.
Aye.
Galata, aye. Gupta.
Yes.
Gupta, aye. Hare.
Aye.
Hare, aye. Ho.
Aye.
Ho, aye. Kim.
Aye.
Kim, aye. Ex officios. Pelosi. Aye. Mullen.
Aye.
Aye. Koumalakis.
Abstain.
Abstain. Ma.
Aye.
Aye. Cohen.
No.
Cohen, no. Weiner.
Abstain.
Abstain. Haney.
Aye.
Haney, aye. Stephanie.
Abstain.
Abstain. Chair Tom.
Abstain.
Abstain. Have all those who wish to vote voted? Vote of 18 aye, 4 no, 8 abstain, 2 absent, the motion carries.
Congratulations, Member Mahmood. Item number 8, a resolution in support of healthcare workers at UCSF Children's Hospital, Oakland. Member Barr, would you like to introduce the resolution?
Yeah, give me the microphone.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Chair Tung and colleagues. I'm just passing around a new version of the resolution that shows some minor edits that I'll be proposing and speaking to in a moment. But I just wanted to start by acknowledging that I'm proud to be on staff with the National Union of Healthcare Workers, but I'm bringing this resolution forward as a longtime Democratic Party and labor activist here in the Bay Area who cares deeply about supporting working people and healthcare access for all of our communities. And I've had the chance to speak with many of you already about this resolution, I appreciate that. But I did want to take a brief moment to summarize the resolution for those that I haven't been able to speak with and also for the public. So this resolution is about standing with the 1,300 frontline healthcare workers at UCSF Children's Hospital, Oakland, like Griselda Chavez, who spoke here earlier. And they're facing a harmful and unnecessary restructuring plan scheduled to take effect on July 6th. UCSF calls it integration, but this is not a merger. And unlike the recent UCSF takeover at St. Mary's and St. Francis hospitals in San Francisco, Children's Hospital Oakland will continue to remain as a separate nonprofit hospital, run with its own board of directors. They'll have the same license and access to particularly federal funding streams. So the only real change that's going to happen on July 6th if UCSF goes forward with this is UCSF Health would become the employer of record, a move that would cancel their existing union contracts and cut the annual take-home pay by an average of $10,000 per worker. And this is primarily because they would have to pay significantly more for their healthcare and retirement benefits. It would also leave dozens of workers as at-will employees without a union because their jobs are not represented by UC unions. So this plan violates the workers' contract with NUHW, which bans subcontracting. And when NUHW filed a grievance, UCSF refused to participate in arbitration, forcing a federal lawsuit just to defend basic contractual rights. I also did want to say, counter to UCSF's claims, this isn't about competition between unions. NUHW has previously supported transferring members to UC unions when it benefited the workers and patients, including just last year at Fountain Valley Medical Center in Orange County. But in this case, the workers were asked directly, and they voted 98% to remain in NUHW. The Children's Hospital Oakland workers feel so strongly about this that they launched an open-ended strike last Wednesday. And I would invite my colleagues and the public to join us out there on the strike line. I'll be out there at 6:45 a.m. tomorrow morning. But a broader concern is if UCSF proceeds with this plan, it will accelerate the exodus of experienced caregivers and undermine care at the East Bay's only dedicated children's hospital and make it easier to shift services to San Francisco, furthering regional disparities in access to care. So colleagues, this resolution simply calls on UCSF and the UC system to delay implementation on this integration plan until the courts can rule on the NUHW lawsuit, which we expect to happen in the next month or two. So it's a modest but urgent step to protect workers, patients, and public accountability. And I also wanted to say that I appreciated the conversations that I've had with many of you about this resolution. And I do want to make this a unifying resolution where we can show that the Democratic Party here in San Francisco really stands with labor and also stands with healthcare workers. So in conversations with many of you, particularly I appreciate Member Arce, Vice Chair Kalamucci, and also Chair Tang. I'd like to propose a set of minor amendments to the resolution. So I passed that around. I think the most significant one is in the third whereas. It'll remove Trumpian from the whereas statement. So it'll just say this plan would result in Children's Hospital Oakland workers losing an average of $10,000 take-home pay per year. And then in the first resolve clause, similarly, it will remove the adjective Trumpian in describing UCSF's actions in dealing with this labor dispute. And I added two footnotes just to provide some citations and also cleaned up the language in a few spots that you can see in the revised version. So I would like to propose that we amend the resolution, and I've discussed this with many of you already with these changes. And also I would urge you to support this and support the workers at Children's Hospital. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Marr. So we will consider the resolution with the amendments that Member Marr has proposed. Any comment or discussion regarding this resolution, members? Vice Chair Kalamucci.
Thank you. So I first want to say thank you to Member Marr for bringing this. I think it's really simple. We're the Democratic Party. We're the party of working people. We have working people here tonight who have asked us for support. 98% are making a very clear statement about what it is that they want to do in staying with NUHW, in running a rolling strike, which is not to be taken lightly when workers go out. It's a really, really big deal. So I want to thank Member Mark for bringing this. I'll be supporting this. And thank you also for your, the conversations, the amendments. I think makes it more direct and more straightforward. This is a good resolution. I'm proud to support it and hope we all stay.
Thank you. Any other comment or discussion? Member Chandler.
Yeah, so I'm going to be either abstaining or opposing this for a couple of reasons. One, given that this is in Oakland, and the Alameda Democratic Party has not taken a position on this. We are the San Francisco Democratic Party. So part of me is worried about that, speaking for a community that isn't ours. Second, I have concerns over just the nature of the inter-union politics. We have the two unions that represent UC that are currently negotiating their contract in the midst of all of this. And I think it would be better not for us to stay out of it while those bargainings are happening. Again, as the pro-labor party, I'm viewing this as a way that we make sure all parties involved have the proper say and make sure that the UC unions are also able to advocate for their members and their future members. In addition, I see the numbers here and I see citations to news articles, but I don't see any specific citations as to the numbers as far as talking about 10,000 to 30,000. And so I would like to see actual citations and actual data to back up what's going on here. And so those are just a few of the reasons why I'll figure out if I'm going to abstain or vote against this, because I think we should let the process play out both in the court, in the union halls, in Oakland and Alameda. And so that's my rationale.
Thank you, Member Chandler. Any other questions, debate? Sorry, Member Nguyen. You the mic?
Thank you, Chair Tom. So I just want us to sort of take a step back for a second and realize where this is coming from. NUHW represents workers, and if we are going to be a party that supports working families and center the very real needs of workers having to maybe get any kind of reduction in pay. I don't know if it's 10,000, I don't know if it's 30,000. Any kind of reduction in pay. You heard earlier the public comment that this would be they want to streamline. And I also take umbrage to Member Chandler because this is UCSF Health. So that is within our jurisdiction. And the ask is really simple. It's just to have a delay of the July 6th forced integration plan to let the court. So I agree that we should let the court do its thing. And so that's why this resolution is very timely because what's happening is UCSF wants to implement this integration plan. So I'm wholly supportive of this, and I'm so proud to be an original co-sponsor of Member Marr's resolution because I really think of my father, honestly. He works at hospitals as an orderly, giving food to patients and making sure that they're fed. And he worked on his feet all day long, and he never missed a shift because he needed that money. And if you're gonna tell people, oh, we're gonna reduce your pay somehow, or we're gonna move services over so you're not gonna be as needed, so we might streamline you. That is what's happening. That is why NUHW is doing a strike, which is no big, not small number. So I want to make sure that urge my fellow members on this body to really consider what do we stand for as our values. Do we stand on the side of working families? Or do we stand on the side of UCSF?
Thank you, Member Nguyen. Any other discussion or debate? Member Mark?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to briefly respond to Vice Chair Chancellor's points. First of all, with regards to the Alameda County DCCC, yes, it's true they haven't passed a similar resolution yet, but that is because of the timing of their monthly meetings it's earlier in June than us, so it was not able to be agendized at their meeting. I know the chair of the DCCC intends to agendize it at their next meeting, depending on where things are at with the labor negotiations. Also regarding the figure of $10,000 on average loss per worker for the 1,300 workers that are on strike right now. That just comes directly from the workers themselves. We heard Griselda Chavez, who works at Children's Hospital Oakland and is a resident of San Francisco, say that she's going to lose nearly $1,000 a month, because of the significant increase in the healthcare benefit plan costs for the employees and also the pension plan. And then your point about this, in kind of repeating UCSF's language, that this is somehow a dispute between unions. And again, I just wanted to point out that that's really not the case. AFSCME 3299, which is kind of the main UC union, is neutral on this. They're not opposing, the NUHW and the Children's Hospital Oakland's effort to maintain their contract and their union. The California Nurses Association, they have a separate contract at Children's Hospital Oakland. They're supportive. They went out on a sympathy strike with us last week. And then also, again, as I mentioned, recently last year, there was a similar situation at Fountain Valley Medical Center in Orange County, where that was taken over by UC Irvine Health System. In that case, our members and the workers there were okay with that and becoming UC employees. So NUHW worked closely with AFSCME 3299 on a smooth transition there. So this is just not the case. The workers voted 98% to oppose this integration plan. They went out on an open-ended strike on Wednesday, which is very big deal. And UCSF is still moving ahead with this, over the strong objections from their employees, their unionized employees on July 6th.
Okay, members, any other further debate or discussion on this resolution? Have a motion to adopt this resolution? Oh, I'm sorry, member Alioto here is a mind reader. She is motioning to adopt this resolution. Is there a second? Member Kim, yes, Member Kim, roll call vote?
This is item 8, resolution in support of healthcare workers at UCSF Children's Hospital Oakland. Resolution to adopt moved by Alioto. The resolution is authored by Mar. Calling the roll, Mahmoud, Oxygen.
Yes.
Mahmoud, I. Kingsbury. Aye. Kingsbury, I. Mar. Aye. Mar, I. Wynn. Aye. Wynn, I. Philhauer.
Aye.
Philhauer, I. Sanctuary. Sanctuary, I. 2. Proxy, Wolf. I. Akbar. I. Alioto Beard.
Aye.
I. Arce, Proxy, Adi. I. Pavlos. I. Kawaguchi. I. Chandler. Abstain. Chen, I. Coles, Proxy, Kingsbury. I. Galata, Proxy, Stone. I. Gupta. I. Hare. I. Ho. I. Kim. I. Lai. I. Ex officios Pelosi. I. Mullen. I. Kunalakis. Abstain. Ma. I. Cohen. Abstain. Wiener. I. Haney. I. Stephanie. I. Chair Tom. I. Have all those who wish to vote voted? By a vote of 27 ayes, 0 no, 3 abstain, 2 absent, the motion carries.
Woo! I need a mic. Congratulations, Member Barker. Moving on to agenda item number 9, resolution condemning vacancy. I'm sorry. If you want to co-sponsor, talk to Director Chen after. We're just moving on. Item number 9.
It's actually helpful, so I have a recorded record. So we go back and rewatch the thing.
All right, who wants to be a co-sponsor on this? Avalos, Calamucci, Arce, Alno, Career, anyone else?
Kim.
Kim. Saw your hand was coming out of somebody else's shoulder.
I was hiding behind.
All right, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 9, resolution condemning the anti-Semitic assault on Mandy's and escalating violent rhetoric against Jews. This is authored by member Kingsbury and Ho. Yield the floor to member Kingsbury to introduce the resolution.
Thank you very much, Chair Tom. So I want to talk today about this resolution condemning the rise of anti-Semitism here in San Francisco and around the country. This resolution was brought to me and to my co-author, Lily Ho, by members of the Jewish community, quite a few of whom are here tonight. And it's a community that's hurting after a spate of anti-Semitic violence here in the city and throughout this country. This resolution calls on us as a body to do something simple, to condemn the world's oldest hate, anti-Semitism. It's a hate that all of us in the Jewish community have felt at some point in our lives. And it's a hate that's a light sleeper that's once again rearing its ugly head. I can just say, from personal experience, I've seen anti-Semitism firsthand. I didn't grasp until I was a teenager that you could go into a house of worship and not have to go through a metal detector. That my Christian friends didn't have to deal with their churches having graffiti on them and having a team that would come clean it up. I didn't realize that you could worship and not have to ring a bell on any day that there wasn't services, because you would have to talk to a security team to get in. This was the sort of thing that I grew up thinking was normal in my community. Jews have always been part of San Francisco. We've been here since its founding, and we helped shape it as a place of tolerance and acceptance. And that's why it's so painful to see a symbol of this sort of tolerance in Mandy's targeted like this. Now, this is personal for me. I think if I'm not wrong, and please somebody correct me if I am, that I'm the only Jewish non-ex officio member of this body. And it's moments like this, like what happened at Manny's and what happened in the arena, that genuinely make me wonder whether I can feel safe here. These attacks are meant to make Jews feel scared. They're meant to make you feel targeted, to remind you that you're different, and that you shouldn't get too comfortable because you're living in someone else's world. We have to reject that hatred, and we have to reject that fear, and we have the opportunity tonight. I don't want to be scared. I don't want other Jews to feel scared. I want them to know that San Francisco has their back, and that this type of hate can't be allowed to go unanswered. And that's why I'm asking you, colleagues, to vote yes on this resolution tonight.
Thank you, member Kingsbury. Member Ho, did you want to speak to the resolution?
Thank you, Chair Tom. And I want to thank you so much to everyone who made a public comment here today. I know you took a lot of special time out of your evening to be here with us, so thank you. I also want to thank our co-sponsors. Our co-sponsors to this resolution. I'm bringing this resolution forward because I believe that this is the right thing to do for the San Francisco Democratic Party. I got involved in politics because I saw firsthand how devastating it is when elected leaders stay silent in the face of anti-Asian hate. When our community was being attacked and we were afraid, many of us felt invisible. We were gaslit, dismissed, and our pain was minimized. And that experience changed me. And it taught me how much it matters for people in power to speak up. And that's why this resolution matters so much to me. Because the Jewish San Franciscans here, they are our neighbors, they're our friends, they're our colleagues, our families. They're a fabric of San Francisco. And they're being targeted. And they're being told that their fear of anti-Semitism is an overreaction. I'm looking at my friend Dika here. After October 7th, Dika asked me a few weeks after October 7th, she said, Lily, is this what Asian hate felt like? And I said, no, because the Holocaust was real. And I stand here with the San Franciscans who are scared to send their kids to school wearing a Star of David necklace, who fear their safety when entering a Jewish establishment, who have to have their mezuzahs removed from their doorways, who fear attending public gatherings, or fear that they have to hide who they are. And I want to be clear, this resolution is not about geopolitics. This is just anti-Semitism coming from both the left and the right of the political spectrum. And we've been seeing this anti-Semitism go from ticking, creeped up from rhetoric to just outright violence. And it's just not the Jewish community that should be afraid of this. We all should be afraid of what our country is turning into. So I stand here with a Jewish community that has always been part of the fabric of San Francisco. And to the Jewish community, I see you, I hear you, your fear is real, and I feel your fear with you. And you do not stand alone, and I will not look away. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? Vice Chair Harris. Member Mahmood, you're recognized.
Member Mahmood had to leave to go back to the budget hearings at City Hall, so he's asked me to share his statement. In this moment, we stand for our democratic ideals. We must call out all forms of injustice and uplift those who are seeking to build bridges towards justice. Manny is one of those bridge builders. I first met Manny 4 years ago. He was organizing a fundraiser for Afghan Muslims seeking refuge in the Bay Area. As the son of Muslim immigrants whose own parents spent years helping refugees build a new life in the Bay Area, his service to others resonated deeply. Here was the son of Jewish immigrants with Afghan heritage welcoming refugees to our great country. He understood that providing a helping hand to those who are different from us is the only way we strengthen the foundation, the American dream, and keep it alive. Since then, I have seen Manny continue to build bridges, and in our conversations, I've come to know his heart, his pride, and his deep-rooted sense of community and justice. I'm deeply saddened to see the targeted vandalism and hate directed at him earlier this month. I reached out to him as soon as I heard, in classic Manny fashion. His first thoughts and words were not about himself, but about ensuring the safety of his staff and his customers. That's what San Francisco is about. Looking out for our fellow neighbor, caring for each other, standing up for the most vulnerable among us. Every single one of us deserves to feel safe, deserves to feel a part of this wonderful city. In this moment, it's imperative we acknowledge the pain caused by this hate incident in Manny's, because only in acknowledging the pain do we begin to heal. We acknowledge injustice and discrimination against Muslims and Jews in the United States, and simultaneously denounce the injustices being committed in the Middle East. At a time when sowing the seeds of division comes easily, we must do the hard work of working towards unifying our communities, remembering always that we have far more in common with one another than that which divides us. And as such, I will be voting yes on this resolution.
Thank you. Member Roberts.
Thank you. I'll be voting yes on this resolution, and I'll be voting yes in solidarity with people who are experiencing rising anti-Semitism around the world. And I say in solidarity because my community and many of our communities are being rounded up right now by masked people who don't give identification, who are not acting with any constitutional authority whatsoever. They're thugs, they're goons. And it's a type of oppression that we saw in Nazi Germany is here in this country. It's often perpetrated by people who are openly anti-Semitic, but they're also hateful about other groups as well. It's un-American. I did have concerns about how this resolution was presented. I'll leave them to myself. I actually believe that an injury to one is an injury to all. I'm really appalled by the violence that was experienced in the community. I was appalled hearing after a march that I participated in, where we were called to be disciplined and peaceful, nonviolent, that afterward there was violence perpetrated on Manny's. I was disgusted to hear about the assault in the marina and horrified about what happened in Washington, D.C. and Colorado as well. I also have to really recognize where the world is at right now. We are seeing the world on the brink of war. In fact, we're already at war, but the brink of the United States actually getting more further involved. My concern about the reference in the resolution to the Anti-Defamation League, I saw their statement on the bombing of Iran, and they were not critical of it. And I actually think that makes all of us vulnerable to see war to grow and to see our government get involved in that war and not being questioned. So I believe that when we talk about not being violent and taking care of everyone, that everyone should be taken care of. And no one should have to experience fear going into their homes, their places of worship, their businesses, their community centers. And so I will be voting in support of this. And I just want people to recognize that the experience of anti-Semitism is very similar to growing Islamophobia, growing anti-immigrant sentiments, growing hatred of people from Latin America. These are the things that our country has become right now. And bringing dialogue forward to address this is what we really need to heal ourselves. Lastly, I was really, as a Democratic Party, I think it's important that we think about how we can become the Big Tent party, and working people need to be part of that Big Tent. And a lot of the working people in this country, in the city, are people of color, are Jews, are people who actually deserve our love and respect. And I was so excited last night with the election of Zoran Mamdani in, the primary in New York, because I think he encapsulates that Big Tent party that the Democratic Party needs to be. And so I'm wholeheartedly supporting this resolution in that vein. So thank you so much for listening to my words.
Thank you, Member Abdul.
Thank you.
Proxy for Member Paul.
Thank you, Chair Todd. My name is Robin Stone. I'm a proud Jewish San Franciscan. I've actually given public comment to this body in the context of anti-Semitism, and I appreciate being here tonight. I appreciate that Peter asked me to be his proxy tonight. I'm going to read the comments that he provided. I think it's particularly important for those of us who identify as part of the progressive left here in San Francisco and across this country to speak out in these moments and be crystal clear about where we stand when it comes to acts of hate and violence against the Jewish community. I join many of my colleagues tonight and the authors of this resolution in strongly condemning the anti-Semitic attacks against Manny Gutiel, the attacks that took place in the marina, and the growing number of attacks against the Jewish people taking place across this country. I've known Manny for many years. In fact, when I was on the DCCC back in 2019, the SF Democratic Party was one of the first organizations to host an event at Manny's when it was first opening its doors. This attack against his business is sickening and completely unacceptable in our city. We must be able to disagree and debate. That has long been a part of the democratic discourse in democratic societies, but we can never, ever let disagreements lead to vicious and violent attacks against people's humanity, people's livelihoods, or people's sense of safety and security. In all of the spaces that we all occupy, we all must be better and do better. We must listen to one another. We must continue to bring people together. With the rise of fascism under Trump, this is not the time for increased divisions. It is time for increased understanding and solidarity. I'm deeply reflecting on my own actions and how I can best show up for friends and a community that is facing a very real sense of harm, hurt, and fear right now, in addition to a sense of marginalization in our political movements and spaces. I remain committed to listening, learning, and working directly with those impacted on solutions and actions we can take individually and collectively. I want to thank everyone who spoke during public comment tonight or who submitted written comments, and to people like Robin, who's here on my behalf tonight, for being willing to share their lived experiences and perspectives during what has been a very difficult time for the Jewish community. Harm against any community is harm against all communities. I continue to stand against all forms of hate and against these anti-Semitic attacks in our city and country. As Democrats, we must continue to prioritize inclusion and understanding while ensuring that we are building spaces and movements where everybody's humanity and dignity is recognized. I'm in strong support of this resolution tonight and would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Members, any other comment? Member Chambers.
Thank you, Chair Todd. I am truly proud to be on this as an original co-sponsor. And, you know, I've been proud to be an ally, an unabashed ally of the Jewish community. I've spoken out against previous vandalism at Manny's, previous political speech that went beyond the pale. But like a lot of other people, especially as a Democrat here in San Francisco, seeing what happened most recently at Manny's in the context of everything that was going on sickened me. It sickened me because, like Member Avalos was saying, this happened under the auspices, these people who claimed to be Democrats. Maybe they didn't claim to be Democrats, maybe they claimed to be under the broader umbrella as progressives. And under that march, they marched in that parade, in that movement. They claimed that they were members of the social justice community fighting for immigrants, fighting against the people that are being taken away by masked folks. That brought back the imagery of pogroms and Gestapo. They said, we are against this. And then what did they do? They did the exact same thing they were claiming the other side did. It disgusts me. And I want to make very clear with this resolution, if you're one of those people, you are not a member of the Democratic Party, you are not a member of the progressive community, and you are not welcome in San Francisco's Democratic community or progressive community. A lot of us are asking, what can we do? And what I can tell you from my experience in allyship is speak up and be present. The toxicity of this oldest hate, the insidious nature is that it evolves for the communities that it's in. In the going back in history, in the communist societies, the Jew was the capitalist. In the capitalist societies, the Jew became the communist. In the Christian societies, the Jew became the Christ killer. And it is no different for our political communities. And that is why we have to be absolutely adamant in calling it out on the other side, like this resolution does. We have to be absolutely adamant that we are calling out the right-wing anti-Semitism that takes the form of Nazism, white supremacism. But because of this insidious nature, that anti-Semitism shows up wherever there is a gathering of people, we have to be able to call it out forcefully within our own community, because it is insidious enough, even within our social justice spaces and our democratic spaces. Just because we're Democrats does not make us immune. And that requires standing up like our champion, Senator Scott Wiener. All you have to do is look at his Twitter replies. Tell me whether they come from the right or the left. It's hard to tell, a lot of the times. Look at any Jewish elected official in this country. Look at their Twitter replies. We need to be unabashed in our pursuit of social justice and progressivism and in a strong Democratic Party. And to do that, it means speaking up when you see this online. If you're on Instagram and you follow a page that just happens to post a triangle reminiscent of the pink triangle when it comes to Jewish institutions like Manny's has been targeted with, which is used as a target, what do? When you're at an event and you hear someone say one of these things at any event, what do? If you don't do anything, there's your answer. Do something. Not that hard at this point. The Jewish community should not be alone. And I'm incredibly proud of the folks that stood here, but I also just want to reemphasize a point that was already made. Kind of sad it was just the Jewish community, for the most part, overwhelmingly. I appreciate the Chinese American Democratic though speaking. It's disheartening, because I've seen the Jewish community show up for every single community in San Francisco and every single progressive issue across the city, and I didn't see that represented here. I think that is a failure of us as a Democratic Party, us as a progressive movement. Why are they not here? We need to reflect on that as a party and as a progressive movement. If we have a community that is core to the Democrats, the Jewish community has showed up for Democrats overwhelmingly. They support us by supermajorities. They are a key constituency, and it is just the right thing to do. Where's the folks standing with the Jewish community? And I know it's not because they weren't reached out to. I love the letters that were posted. That was great. We're in a moment of high stress. I see almost only the Jewish community here standing up for this resolution. We need to do some soul searching. Why do you think that is? So I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of this resolution, but I by no means believe this. Is there something funny?
Yeah, I don't feel very welcome right now.
Okay, members, let's remember our code of conduct and be respectful of people when they're speaking. Thank you.
No, I'm fine. As you can see, we have a lot of work to do.
Member Chandler, any other members wishing to speak on this item? Member Whitman.
Thank you, Chair Tom, and thank you, Member Chandler, for your passionate comments. And I just want to share a quick story because my parents came here 50 years ago from Vietnam as refugees. They met at a refugee camp. My mom actually moved from Florida to Chicago because the Jewish Family Services sponsored her, and she found friends, and she picked them of all the other ones because they were like the most reasonable and just set you up an apartment and good luck with your life. And so I would just share that I know that I would not be here today without the Jewish community and the role that they played in the resettlement of Vietnamese Americans. I also come to this issue as a Buddhist, where I see this is like all the suffering and pain and horror. And so I want to share my support for this resolution, but also just kind of think, I think about the LGBT community, because we're here at the LGBT Center. And just a couple of weeks ago, we commemorated the 9th anniversary of the shootings at Pulse. And what that did to the LGBTQ community, when you go into a club, I remember very clearly, you would go into clubs like, is this the day that I get shot up? And when I heard the comments tonight around the same kind of, is this the day where I get shot? And that kind of fear. And I also resonated with member Ho around the anti-Asian sentiments that were happening in 2021 because of the Trump administration. And I was also very active in that space, thinking, I remember very clearly, it was around March, St. Patty's Day. It was the day before St. Patty's Day when 6 women were shot at Asian women were shot at the massage parlors, and the very next day, all these white Americans just kind of celebrating like St. Patrick's Day, like nothing ever happened, and then the Asian Americans just like, what is my world? How is this happening? So that pain and suffering is very real, and I can only speak from my lived experience, but I just want to share that people ask me all the time, like, how do you build coalitions? You build coalitions by standing up together, by locking arms, by marching in the streets, by saying, we will overcome this, attack on all, and the attack on one is an attack on all, just my pain is your pain is my pain, is very back and forth, sharing that together. So I just want to share that I'm very heartened that I think that we have a fully united Democratic Party here tonight in full support of this resolution. And that we think about Pride as a protest, that I hope you do march on Sunday. I hope you march on Friday at the Trans March. I hope you march, cheer on the Dyke March if you're not part of the Dyke community. We need each other in this moment. And especially as we are celebrating Pride, and then we're going into this 4th of July, we as Americans need each other. We as Americans build each other up, are part of the social fabric because we say, hey, you're different from me. I'm not Jewish, but I see Jewish as my family, because we're Americans together. And I think that is what we need today. We need hope, we need earnestness, we need kindness, and we do need to, as Member Chandler said, we do need to understand why. There's more other diverse communities here standing up for the Jewish community, but I do think it starts here today with this vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Nguyen. Any other member wishing to speak on this resolution? All right, Steve, open please.
Listening, it's one thing to listen to so many members of the Jewish community who have come out tonight and who, have been there for so many of us. And, for myself, I think, as my parents immigrated here from the Philippines and Iran, and there's a lot going on in the world right now. And I think that this resolution, very strongly condemning anti-Semitism, and looking at the words that were used in this hate incident, I think it's important to recognize that those words are ugly and they're disgusting. And there are words that are used every day, unbeknownst to some people, but they're anti-Semitic words. They're anti-Semitic words when we talk about people that we disagree with, who are aggressive or bossy or whatever the coded language is. And when, there's just so much going on in my head right now about what we're hearing here, because there's a lot of, as much as I love the city I was born in, when my parents first came in, there's a lot of hypocrisy in the city. So when you talk about, Member Chandler, why aren't there more allies? And when you look at statistics that have been not just in the New York Times, but other publications recently, where, there's hate in every community, it's gross. But when you look at the anti-Jewish hate and the anti-Semitism, that outnumbers the next rise in hate crimes by almost 3 times. And when we hear people talk about, those who don't understand history are doomed to repeat it, and we see how businesses, this one, Manny's business, but also others, just last year and the year before, I fear that we are doomed to repeat history, and this isn't, there are a lot of parallels here to the Black Lives Matter movement, where this isn't about other lives not mattering. This is about a community that is acutely feeling the pain, and that is fighting to exist on this earth. And it's really just heart-wrenching to watch, because we shouldn't have to wait for an incident like this that occurred at Manny's, where there, was a threat of physical violence, where people were fearing for their lives, when in our everyday lives, anti-Semitism is so pervasive, not just in our communities, it's in our schools, in our businesses, in the lack of the inclusion of the Jewish people in DEI work. And that's glaring to me. And when you ask why others aren't standing with our Jewish community, it's because I think people are scared. And I don't think you have to be Jewish to be scared. I know my Jewish friends are scared. And I know that standing up for this community in particular results in threats. And I think that is why it is even more important for us as allies to stand with our Jewish community. And this isn't about, right now tonight we're talking about anti-Semitism. There's a lot of, my dad's Muslim, a lot of anti-Muslim that I faced growing up. But I think we really need to pause here because of how exceptionally acute and terrorizing this is. And I think, we should observe not just how this debate, not just how our Jewish leaders who have shown up tonight, how they are treated after this debate, but for people who speak out in support of the Jewish community, what the aftermath of that is. And that might not be tomorrow, but it might be at the next public event, and it happens. And I will do this every day if given the opportunity, but it's a big problem. So, I feel the support for our Jewish community in this room. It is not to the exclusion of other communities who are suffering. I think that we can do a lot better as a party, not just to recognize and empathize with our Jewish community, but other communities. And I've made this comment recently, we have to stop with the performative stuff and actually do something that matters and that is relevant to people who are hurting in this city. So I support this resolution and appreciate all the support in this room.
Thank you, Member. Is there anyone else who would like to comment? Director Lai.
I've been struggling to find what words to say. I was coming into this already a big ally. I was going to vote yes. I'd love to be added as a co-sponsor, but some of my closest friends are Jewish. Been to many Shabbat dinner, but I was just reflecting as you all were speaking, even if I had no Jewish friends, if I didn't know anyone in the community, the events are just deeply wrong. And I just want to thank you all so much for coming out tonight, and here to stand with you.
Anyone else who would like to comment? I'll just say really briefly, many of you know that my day job involves prosecution of hate crimes. And although I won't speak to any specifics of the incidents that are in the resolution, I deeply support this resolution. Jewish people have been long persecuted and overlooked, but having so many of you here present today really brings back home how many Jewish friends we have among us and how we must stand in allyship with our friends. So thank you for being good Democrats. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to move that we adopt this resolution tonight. May I have a second? Seconded by proxy for Lieutenant Governor Kulinakis. Let's do a quick roll call vote.
This is item 9, resolution condemning the anti-Semitic assault on Manny's and escalating violent rhetoric against Jews. Principal authors Kingsbury and Ho. This is a motion to adopt moved by Tung. Calling the roll. Kingsbury.
Aye.
Kingsbury, aye. Mar. Aye. Wynn.
Aye.
Aye. Philauer. Aye. Senjuri. Aye. Tu. Aye. Akbar. Aye. Aliapir. Aye. Arce. Aye. Avalos. Aye. Kalamushi. Aye. Chandler. Aye. Chen is aye. Coles. Aye. Galata. Aye. Gupta. Aye. Hare. Aye. Ho. Aye. Kim. Aye. Lai. Aye. Mahmood. Aye. Ex officios Pelosi. Aye. Mullen. Aye. Kunalakis. Aye. Ma. Aye. Cohen. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Haney. Aye. Stephanie. Aye. Chair Thomas. Aye. Have all those who wish to vote voted? By a vote of 30, aye, 0 no, 0 abstain, 2 absent, the motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations, Member Kingsbury, Member Ho, for this very timely and important resolution. Moving on to item number 10, which is new business and announcements. Any new business or announcements? Member St. Gerard.
Well, just an announcement. I am one of the 2 co-chairs for this year's Democratic Party Gala. My fellow co-chair is Associate Member Carrie Barr, who used to be voting member of this body, now associate, thanks to Member Tung and Chair Tung. And we now have a date for the San Francisco Democratic Party Gala this year. It's going to be Thursday, October 23rd. We'll be having the gala at Vindo's in North Beach. So more information to come over the next couple weeks. But please mark your calendars. That's all. Thank you.
All right, any other announcements or new business? If we can move then to item number 11, which is adjournment. Are there any in memoriams or in celebrations that anyone would like to make? Well, happy Pride, everyone. Okay, this meeting is adjourned.